Ella sat up in her large soft bed, stretching as the morning light tries to creep through her curtains. She had lived alone in this mansion for 2 years now, ever since the plane crash that took her family away at 31. Ella was the only surviving child of her wealthy father, and all of his properties and businesses were left to her. She didn't feel lucky, though her parents and siblings were gone, and no amount of wealth could fill that emptiness. One morning, as Ella tried to get out of bed, she felt something strange. Her head spun, and her legs wobbled beneath her. She grabbed the edge of the bed and sat down quickly. "What's happening?" she whispered to herself. Trying to stand again, the room swirled and her heart pounded in her chest. She felt dizzy and weak, like something was terribly wrong. She screamed for help, and within seconds, her boyfriend Kizito rushed into the room. Worry itched on his face. "Ella, what's wrong?" he asked, kneeling beside her. But before she could answer, something even more shocking happened. Ella screamed again, but this time not out of dizziness or fear. She couldn't see him. "Kizito," she yelled, waving her hands in front of her face, trying to find him in the air. "I can't see you." Her voice trembled as she realized the room had gone completely dark. No lights, no shapes, nothing. "What do you mean you can't see me?" Kizito asked, his voice shaking with concern. He gently touched her shoulder, but Ella flinched, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I can't see anything, Kizito. I am blind." Everything from that moment became a blow. Kizito had rushed her to the hospital, and the doctors had conducted every test they could think of. Ella's memory was fuzzy, and the only thing she clearly remembered was waking up in the hospital bed with more tests being done. The doctors, with their serious faces and whispering voices, couldn't figure out what had happened to her sight. Everything seemed normal, but her world remained dark. Ella lay there in the hospital bed, her mind racing. At her age, all her dreams seemed shattered. She had always wanted to travel the world, see new places, meet new people, and experience life outside her father's business. Now, without her sight, how could she ever fulfill those dreams? "Who did this to me?" she cried, her voice weak. Tears flowed down her cheeks, her heart heavy with sadness and fear. One afternoon, the doctor came in with a look that was a little different from others. He sat beside her bed and gently said, "Ella, we have some good news." Ella's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that they would have found a way to restore her sight? "We have found a specialist," the doctor continued, "but the surgery you need will have to be done outside the country. It's a delicate procedure, but it could help restore your vision again." Ella's spirit lifted slightly. She didn't care what it took. She would go anywhere, pay anything just to see again. "I will do it," she said eagerly, her heart racing with hope. "I will do anything to get back my sight." However, something began to bother her. While she was determined to have the surgery, Kizito, her boyfriend, didn't seem as enthusiastic. He was usually so attentive, but lately he had been distant, barely speaking about her health or the surgery. Instead, he seemed more confused and focused on her father's business, which now belonged to her. Ella lay awake at night, thinking deeply. Why was Kizito more interested in her father's company than in her recovery? Shouldn't he be supporting her through this difficult time? The more she thought about it, the more uneasy she felt. After several more tests, the doctors finally discharged Ella from the hospital so she could go home and prepare for the surgery. As she left, her thoughts were no longer just about her blindness, but about Kizito and what his true intentions might be. Weeks had passed, and Ella's world remained dark. Not just physically, but emotionally as well. Her boyfriend Kizito had changed so much since she lost her sight. Instead of being the support she desperately needed, he kept pushing her about the family's document. The very documents that held control over her father's wealth and business. Every day, Kizito would nag her. Ella, you need to sign the papers. It's important for the company. One morning, Ella had had enough. Kizito, she asked, her voice trembling with frustration. What have you done for me since I went blind? All you seem to care about are those documents. Have you ever asked how I am feeling? There was a long pause. The air between them felt thick with tension. Then Kizito snapped, his voice harsh and cold. Why are you so ungrateful, Ella? I don't have anything to offer you. I am tired of seeing you every day like this, depending on me for everything. Ella's heart broke as it was. She had thought Kizito would stand by her, especially during this dark time, but it was clear that he wasn't the man she believed him to be. Without another word, Kizito stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind him. Ella waited for him to return that night, but he never came back. Days turned into weeks, and still there was no sign of Kizito. Ella cried for hours after he left, not just because of the pain of his betrayal, but because she felt utterly alone. Her sight was gone, her parents were gone, and now the one person she thought she could rely on had abandoned her. The mansion felt emptier than ever before. More weeks passed, and Ella had started to grow used to the silence. Then when her uncle Chief Nnamdi paid her another visit, she had always been close to the family, but lately, Ella sensed something off about him. The visit was no different. He wasn't there to check on her health or offer comfort. Instead, his voice was sharp as he addressed her. Ella, he began, sitting across from her. Why are you making things difficult for all of us? You need to sign the documents for the company. It's time you stop delaying and handle your responsibilities. Ella felt her chest tightened. Why was everyone so concerned about the company? Couldn't they see that she was going through the most challenging time of her life? I will sign when I'm ready, uncle, she replied softly, trying to keep her emotions in check. But Chief Nnamdi wasn't about to let it go. Do you remember how your father died, Ella? He asked, his voice lower now, more menacing. He had a heart attack, yes, but it was because of you. He was stressed about how you would handle everything. You were always his worry. Ella's heart sank as her uncle's words hit her like a punch. How could he say something so cruel? Her father had loved her deeply, and to hear her uncle suggest she was to be blamed for his death was unbearable. Ella cried. Ella wept. She cried, but her uncle left her.